No, they should be foods.
And her little eyeballs.
Mhm.
They're cute.
So there we are. Like I say, you can see that up on the Zoom. You'll cast to those two screens, or you can just leave this and bring your charger out and be ready to go. And then I will pause the recording for now. Right here.
That's tier 1. That area is identified for tier 1 future annexation. And that is listed as a future land use of residential low density.
Okay. And I see on the entrance, basically, we would need, the town would vacate the existing cul-de-sac that's at the end of Clancy. So that, I guess part of it would go into that drainage pond
That's correct.
or whatever. So, and I sure don't see a need to have a cul-de-sac right there. Myself, I think it would cause more confusion traffic wise or.
Can you hit the next slide?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So within the staff reports, we have listed the agency that we reached out to make comments on this application. The one of note that we put on here was from Colorado, CPW, that they list a couple recommendations. This is just a select few. There's more within the reports, but these are all relating to avoid human conflict with wildlife and especially black bears. And so some of those are related to how trash and pets are kept around each of the single family properties, as well as some recommendations for prohibitions against things like keeping backyard chickens or other or like bees, things like that.
I know that currently, if somebody comes in and applies and wants to have chickens and raise eggs, the town has, you know, for 30 years, for 34 that I know of, allowed that. But
These are recommendations from CPW. These are not
requirements.
these are not like a shall in kind of law speak. I believe there was only one within the staff report that was a you cannot do, which I'm looking through here.
With salt blocks and feeding deer wildlife.
Thank you, that's correct. Yeah, so that was the only one that they yes, that was a requirement, but the rest were recommendations for the developer and for the town.
So were the recommendations on the fencing a perimeter fence or a fence for each lot?
So based on the way that I read CPW's letter, that it was for the entire, the wildlife safe fence would be for the entire application site, not for each specific.
So it'd be a
lot.
perimeter fence.
Correct.
Andy, are you putting up a perimeter fence?
I would prefer to.
Yeah, I'm not.
It hasn't been, I mean, to be
Decided.
honest, you know, I mean, we're kind of waiting on this sketch plan review and acceptance, and then we, you know, move forward with looking at that.
And then the last slide is just for reference as you discuss this application. And so myself and Paloma are here, and then if the applicant would like to say any words, they may do so at your discretion. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
I guess I could try to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Is there going to be an HOA for this subdivision?
Yes. I believe that is a state statute, that all subdivisions must have a HOA.
My question is for our attorney and staff. It says subdivision. This is 18.20.070 subdivision design standards are found in a separate resolution adopted by the town. Do we have access to that resolution?
So it's not in any records I have. I would ask Angie if she has been able to come across that resolution. But I have not had a chance to review the existing design guidelines beyond what is included in the code with regard to the infrastructure requirements.
Okay, it also further states, in addition, the town engineer shall maintain subdivision, traffic, utility, and other such design and construction standards necessary to carry out all the purposes of these regulations. So, we were told there's no traffic study required.
Right, at this.
So how does the town engineer maintain subdivision, traffic, and utility? There's no traffic study required.
I mean, so as far as the traffic, we're not perpetuating any additional, but I think they might need one at the end. I would double check though.
Yeah, I mean, 42 houses is 84 additional cars down a very small, narrow street.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be a reason to ask for one.
It is Clancy, a standard street width, as all the other streets are in Collbran, the 28 feet also. Yes. Are you going to be building custom homes or are you going to be building some spec homes?
Oh, the combination. I mean, I would prefer just to sell lots. But I don't, in this small of a community, I don't know that that's gonna necessarily be an option that we would be able to get 42 houses built without doing some spec homes. And potentially, you know, there being some rentals or something.
So my concern is, as we all know, there is a lack of affordable housing here. There is a lack of affordable housing. And so if you were building spec homes, would you try to make them, you know, I know the cost of material is terrible, but you know, make them so that, you know, lower income people can afford to purchase them.
Yeah, I wanna, my ultimate goal is to see a nice subdivision, new subdivision with nice houses and trying to keep it as affordable as possible. I would prefer not to have very, very cheap houses that are not attractive or, I mean, we live up at a higher elevation. I don't want cheap, heating and especially heating in the winter costs to be outrageous because of a cheap built house at the same time. I want a house that kind of lives or, you know, lasts a while, you know, also. So that's where I'm at on it. I mean, obviously it comes down to cost of all the infrastructure, you know, and the building materials, like you said. So, but yeah, I'd like to try to make it where we can attract more people to town, people within the town or kids can afford to stay here, you know, and not have to pay $500,000 for a house and a piece of land, so.
What? While I know on Clancy, there's sidewalks on only one side, would you be willing to put sidewalks on both sides of the street? I think for safety reasons, I think it's better. And you've got the room to put them. You know, looking at, your sketch plan right now.
I guess it would be something that we could consider. My concern with that is you can direct all foot traffic or whatever to a certain point, but then what do you do with them if there's not a sidewalk that continues? To get down there, now I could potentially see some other routes, to get traffic or foot traffic to a sidewalk down there, but that'd be something that we could definitely look at as we move forward, or, you know, if we're approved and can move forward with that. Because I mean, safety is, as we all know, is one of the most important things of the whole thing. And I mean, it is on the outskirts right now, so it's not like you have a lot of through traffic to it. It's gonna be more residential traffic in that area. So, and the parks there, and there may be something that we can work with the park or with the town on getting traffic down or foot traffic off of there. We also don't want to send traffic through or foot traffic through the neighboring properties that don't have sidewalk to them. That's, in my opinion, not right either, so.
So I have a question for the engineer. There's one exit and entrance. What is the required amount of entries and exits per housing units?
This meets that criteria, and it was also reviewed by CDOT, and they didn't have any comments on any of it.
So, those cul-de-sacs, are they big enough to turn around a bus or a fire truck?
They should meet that requirement, yes.
As our local fire department looked at the cul-de-sacs or made any comments.
Usually when cul-de-sacs are designed, they're designed to certain engine sizes and specifics, so since this falls under the town's fire district, they would be required to use the town engine size to go with a fire truck to get around. So, yes.
I'll also say, and this is in the staff report, that comments were contacted out to Plateau Valley Fire Protection District. We did not hear back, I still not hear back today, but they were contacted for this.
Okay,
Are we doing a rezoning at this time? It's kind of inconsistent in the,
There's no reason to do a rezone. It's already
Yeah.
residential.
I understand that. I'm just reading the words. So, my other question is, it says that the wastewater is gonna bring us up. One spot it says, it would bring us up to 64%, and the next one says, 78%. So what is it gonna bring us up to our percentage of water use?
In our water capacity study that we did last summer, there was a category in there with this subdivision added on to show that it would not adversely affect the rest of town or the treatment plant. But I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it is in that report.
Okay. All right, and then you listed using 3 storage tanks, but one of those storage tanks is not in use right now, correct? So
Correct.
we only have 2 storage tanks in use right now.
Correct, but the thought is that by the time this subdivision comes in, the 3rd tank at the school would be in.
okay. Yeah, because of the size, I know down at the county, I was down there yesterday and talking to the surveyor, they, you know, in the past, since we've been here long before we moved here 34 years ago, they're being charged agricultural taxes But it's developed and you have single lots. The state just a couple of years ago changed the law so that if it's a vacant lot. And it's zoned residential. They will charge you for that. Basically commercial, the 29% instead of the 7%. That's why I was wondering if possibly.
That is something that we will look at and definitely consider.
I mean, just our 807. Doubled, in taxes, and that's why I wanna
Yeah,
show a continuous use, and if you guys, that's why I was saying, if you built, say, one street. And wanted to develop that first. And leave the rest of it, cause I believe in the town code, as long as you have 2 acres. It can be zoned residential, agricultural, and. Then you can still run cows or whatever, or livestock and get the agricultural taxes on it. That's the way our 40 is zoned out on the sunny side. Is agricultural, residential.
I know there's a great tax break for being zoned agriculture.
Yeah, so I would hate to see 44 lots. Developed and then not. Filled in and have a huge tax
Yeah.
burden on the developer. Is what I'm getting at, I guess,
Yep,
so. Yes, no, go ahead.
So are you're gonna develop the entire acreage? First, right? And then you're gonna start selling the lots, or are you gonna? How are you gonna do it exactly?
well. My initial plan as of, like, my answer today would be, I want to put all the roads in. That doesn't mean we still can't phase it. In terms of like 2 or 3 phases, where then would be platted. To start building houses. But to save, and the reason I say to build all the roads. And all that infrastructure, it will be cheaper for me to come in and do it at one time.
Right.
Than to do the piecemeal together.
Yeah,
So. Initially, right now, I'm thinking. To do all the infrastructure that way. My concern is, or my thought is some lots are more desirable probably than others for custom homes. And if there's interest in those, I hate to kick interest away and not develop that part. When somebody would like those lots, so I'm still kind of weighing it on that side, but initially, I mean. I would like to start building. Basically on the north side of Planks. There. And I mean, I'll be honest, at this point, I still have to determine and see what the economy is doing on how to phase it.
So you have like plans for spec homes, if someone, I mean, initially you said you just wanted to go in and develop it stuff lots, right?
That's what I would prefer, but
So,
I don't think that's gonna happen.
but I think what they're looking at is you're coming in, you're gonna build homes, you're gonna develop the sign, and you're building homes too. If someone decides that they want a house, do you have plans already from
I will let
an
them bring,
architect?
I will let them bring their own builder, their own plans. It will still have to meet. The Mason County building code or the town's code.
But if somebody was to say, I want you to build us a home, we want a spec house, or. I mean, do you have something like that set up where?
I don't this time, I have not. At this point, just because of. I've been working at this for a year. And with all the town codes and things, other issues. I don't wanna put a bunch of money into something, I mean, I've already put plenty of money into this engineering part.
Right.
Just to waste it, and I'm not saying it's wasted, it's not gonna go or anything, but. We don't know where the economy is gonna be in another year either,
Do
so,
you have interest? I mean.
I've had people
as far as
ask about a lot,
There's
but
people coming to you and saying, hey, I'm interested in getting a house up here. Do you,
Oh, I've had plenty of people ask, now, there's a difference between talking and actually having, and I haven't sat down. Until we figure out exactly what we're gonna need, what's gonna be required on all the total costs, which will come in the DIA. So that I can actually give people an idea of what a lot's going to cost. With all that, and I mean, it's like some of the comments here, there's sidewalk on both sides, that's just additional cost. And so it just depends on exactly what is required.
next developments, when we do something like that, I mean, there's always a sidewalk in the entire subdivision in front of every single. That sidewalk might lead out to a main road, but there's always a sidewalk in front of every home. On the cul-de-sac, you know,
And there, and on the plan, you can see there around the cul-de-sac, there is a sidewalk going out. But that sidewalk does not continue on the north side of the lots, and that's to match, and excuse me, I think it's the south. It's on one side, and it's to match what plant is coming off of Spring Street is. It's that we took the same configuration, same road width, everything, and extended it all the way through. Which I do believe, as they said in the report, meets.
but your biggest interest is in just developing the lots.
Yeah. I would love for
Selling
a
the
builder
lots.
to come and say, hey, I want 5 lots, I'm gonna build some houses and sell them, or 42 people to come and say, hey, I wanna build a home in here, I'll bring my own builder, I'll be glad to sell the lots and not have to worry about it. But I just don't think in this community at this time that that's a realistic expectation. And that's why I kind of expect to build some spec homes myself. So,
Have you done some preliminary marketing or asking if have any builders come to you and say, hey, if you get this
so and
approved?
at this current, the most I've done is went out to a couple builders and said, hey, what do you think we can build these houses for? Of course, I don't have no set plan, so it's just kind of a square footage price.
Right,
And that I've got, I mean, I'll be honest with the reason I am considering this is it's been for the last 10, 15 years, it's been teachers don't have a place to move up here because there's no rentals, there's no lots to build on with a new school being built currently. You know, I see what are we missing in this community? I mean, we have the newest house in this community. I mean, there's probably been maybe 5 in the last 20 years built in town. I mean, to me, it's time for some growth, some newer houses. I mean, for the residents, even within community now, that would like to upgrade, but to attract some more people. I mean, the population of our town is going down. The kids in the school, I mean, the school population is way down. I mean, the scary thing to me is we're almost half what we were 40 years ago, 50 years ago
at the school.
at the school. So, I mean,
Yeah, that's,
and that doesn't make it good for any of the, like you heard earlier with the local businesses. You know, we don't have people here who can't support them.
if they're building a new school.
So,
I do have a question for KLJ on page 7, item G. Did you come up with an amount, a set amount? It says owner agrees to pay the town a reasonable fee for examination of plans, blah, 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 not to exceed. And it says final amount to be confirmed with KLJ. Did you guys come up with an amount?
So we have a on-call task that when the on-call task was set up a year ago, the plan was for the money to build it up past the town was gonna build a developer for review fees.
Mhm.
I would need to look at what the most recent number is, but I can easily get that for you.
Okay.
And then also, I just wanted to ask town staff, in 18.04.080. It says that all the attorney and engineer fees are to be rolled into the application fee, and that says that it is payable at such time a statement is presented by applicant to the applicant. Have we prepared what we've used so far on the KLJ and the attorney fees on this?
We have not, that would be something that would be a contingent. Contingency of approval, and then we can prepare that bill and provide the bill.
which should be at the final. approval.
Final approval, it's my understanding that you are just seeking the approval of item C on the attachments, the subdivision sketch plan. At this meeting, is that correct?
Yes, so my understanding of the town code and regulations, the first step is to get the sketch plan approved. And then we will work on the actual engineering portion of it, and go back and forth with the town attorney and the town planning, which is Caleb.
Will we have to do the PUD planning for this particular subdivision?
Yes, so this is just to show that they have the plans and that the utilities are will coordinate with the town and that will fit and have capacity and all that kind of stuff. There will be multiple submittals. If this is approved, there will be multiple submittals after to go into the detail of like all of their grading plans and their asphalt, sidewalks, water lines and connections.
Do you want to ask if these two want public comment? These are neighbors from Clancy.
Okay. Steve White and Gary. I'm sorry, Sarkin.
Oh, Sam here. I had several comments, questions.
Okay,
First of all, the traffic study is a big one. 42 houses with cars going up and around the road. It's a lot. I'm used to like those cars. I'm not against the neighborhood, not at all. It's just how it's structured, one entrance in, one entrance out. Street width would be a concern, and I don't know why the trend is to cram a bunch of houses in a little amount of property. I think if you open it up a little bit, everybody's way happier, like cut it down to 35 houses. That's just my idea, and sidewalks on both sides would be proper in my opinion. That way, you know, nobody has to cross the street. If there's kids on this side, they can be on the sidewalk. They don't have to cross the street. Kids can stay on this side, kids can stay on this side. It's just the way things are done. I realize the other side of my street doesn't have a sidewalk, and I'm not sure why they never put one there.
well, part of it was the budget and the bond and
Oh.
running out of, there was future plans to go ahead and put a sidewalk on there, and part of it was because if you'll notice, both Wagon Wheel Court, I mean, even at my place,
Okay,
if you go where the property pins are, they're probably 10 foot behind the sidewalk, so the actual street or land use, you know, is quite a bit larger than what the street is, but they made the street, actually, when they did ours, I would have personally preferred if they would have just left Wagon Wheel alone. We just had asphalt and bar ditches and then extended it from Clancy and worked up, you know, Spring Street, but it is what it is, you know. Because the park gets used a lot. There's a lot of people that walk their dogs, you know, clear up Spring Street into the cul-de-sac that's, you know, on a dirt road. Now, on some of the subdivisions, I know in north Paradise Hills, which is out by the airport in Grand Junction.
Yeah,
Even around the cul-de-sacs, there are not
they don't have sidewalks.
they don't have any sidewalks at all. They do have a drive over curb. And then they do have a slope, you know, for their driveway to go through. In fact, my parents lived in Paradise Hills for 25 years and
So most of those.
yeah, they had, there's no sidewalks there. It just has a drive over curb like what we have on Wagon Wheel Court.
Yeah,
And people that wanted a slider slope so it didn't, you know, drop off their vehicle, they'd go ahead and put a conduit through there for drainage water and pour concrete on top of it to make it easier, and they didn't drag a trailer or something, you know. So,
yeah, and sidewalks, I mean, I guess they're not a must, people don't even walk on them sometimes. And you have to shovel them all the time, so it's not like, you know,
yeah,
but with that, it's like, would it make the road wider? So people can park cars and turn around and.
it actually would make the road
Yeah.
wider if the sidewalks were done away with and they did just curb so that we had good drainage, you know, for storm drainage and such. So,
Yeah, and then like my other question was. There's a housing crisis in America completely, everybody needs affordable housing, period. There's no question about that. But you have to get real precise on your numbers, what's your lot's gonna cost? What can we do here, what can we do here to get that price down? But then you see the older lots and houses around here, they're not selling. So it's like, why would that neighborhood fill up if these houses are being bought? It's just a question.
I think the answer to your question is, with that is the size of the land. Because most of the stuff that's for sale around here has got many acres on it.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
it's agriculture.
yeah, and what is the actual reality of selling 42 lots?
Might be slow.
I don't mean to burst anybody's bubble, but
Yeah,
that's a lot of lots up here. What if you were to cut that in two and just make like because it's like 12 acres, 12 point something acres, right? And you just half acre lots. I mean, I know that would cause the price of the lot to be a little higher, but you think people that move to areas like this, they don't want box homes.
no, no traffic.
they usually want more.
They want something that has a little bit of elbow room. And it will jump from roof to roof. I mean, I lived in the city and it's the absolute worst in the world.
Right,
And I mean, if you were to do something like that, I know you already have it all drawn out and everything, but
So,
I think it would be more appealing to people to be here.
and my response to that is drive through this town and look at the larger lots. And the majority of them have what I would consider a lot of
Junk.
junk around it.
Well,
And I don't want, that's not what I,
nobody
and
can
you-
afford to water their lawn either. Nobody could afford to water a half acre lot with the price of our town. lot.
No, but that's why you're having the HOA. There are rules.
there are
There's
rules,
rules in this town,
but
but
nobody's gonna
nobody is
enforce them.
enforcing it.
Exactly. And
Cost money to enforce things.
But if
They
you're
got your-
in an HOA, you're the one responsible for that. You've got to have a board for that
once
HOA.
I turn it over, I'm not,
But why do you have to have somebody to turn it over to?
you turn it over to the residents in there. I mean, we do this all the time in Grand Junction area.
yeah,
You do.
And so once those lots, 75% of the lots are sold, you turn it over to the,
But I understood 75%. That's a lot of lots that you have to sell prior to getting to that point, right?
and there's no, and you know, to the other thing is if somebody wants to buy 2 lots to have a bigger area, there's nothing in here saying that they can't. They don't have to build a house on every lot.
So in your rules then, in your rules and regulations for your HOA, you've got to set that up. but you've got to set that up prior to turning it over to the residents, because you're managing that up to 75% of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've done dealt with.
And
lots of
the county has to approve that lot combination.
this is in the town, not the county. So
It's
this,
still in the county.
I called the
Town
county,
has
they said
jurisdiction.
they have no say. so
Right, as
over
long as it's
it
in,
in the town.
But the town of Collbran has no HOAs.
Mhm.
right, this
Do you
would,
have-
this would be the,
Have any kind of ordinance that covers something like that?
We don't even have a fee schedule.
there's, I haven't seen it, well, there.
It's an HOAs.
Yeah.
But,
yeah,
I
most,
mean, they're good for a purpose,
Yeah.
but I have do bookkeeping for several of them too. And I helped develop them, and so these are things that need to be established prior to, because if you can't combine a lot, there's a lot of places that let you combine a lot, and then later on, somebody says, oh, I decide I don't wanna build on that side, or I don't wanna build a big enough house that's gonna take up two, now I wanna split it back again. Some counties and towns will allow it, some will not. So these are kind of work.
Yeah, Kendall knows about that.
You need to come up with before,
our county allows that. If somebody buys two lots and say they. So there's not enough street parking, but they park their vehicles or RV equipment, whatever, on the second lot, or they have a storage unit, you know, a shed or whatever. So you can combine that, it still has a separate tax number, but you can combine that with your house so that you're not paying the higher tax like I'm paying on a vacant lot. That's why I'm gonna have to do the continuous use, and that's my goal, is to clean up my vacant lot this year.
have you already come up with your set of rules and regulations for that subdivision? If those three-
No, as I stated earlier, we're at the sketch plan stage. If it's not even accepted, I'm not wasting money on
Right.
putting it together, but
I'm
do we have a
just-
template? Yeah,
that
yeah, we do have a
already you
template.
have some sort of idea of what things you want to happen in this area.
Yeah, I have something to say, when you put it through, there's gonna be a water or two line for each lot. So if somebody wants to buy a double lot, how are the taxes gonna be on that double lot with the water sewer line put up on the top, you're gonna have a house on?
So you shouldn't buy it, so there will be water and a sewer sub out to each
Yeah.
lot. But there is no fee to that
There's no extra fee for a water.
until, and because you will purchase, so if you buy a lot and you wanna build a house, you will have to buy that water and sewer tap essentially at that.
Yeah, I was curious, because my next door, that lot that's next.
Yeah.
So it's Vicky, used to complain, she. The water sewer, but she had an existing home there. But
Or let me rephrase that, that's what most of the Grand Valley, all the Grand Valley is like.
yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, and so I don't know exactly what the town of Collbran's rules and my understanding is there's gonna be some discussion on that moving forward here in terms of. Not in regards to the subdivision, but outside of that,
Yeah, because.
that's all, I mean, that's just a normal
Yeah,
practice.
if I was to buy a lot, I was just curious.
Yeah.
And I think that only makes sense that, because what happened on Wagon Wheel. You know, here we had a fresh street and 806 didn't have the stubs to it. So when they developed Wagon Wheel, they just put the water and the sewer in. So if you come up today, I'm like, and I came in the early 90s, okay, when they did they tore out Wagon Wheel. And said, can I pay a contractor to go ahead and hook up stubs to the mains, so that once the asphalt's in, we don't have to cut up the street and ruin that integrity, and was told that, no, I had to pay my tap fees, so if you wanna hook up, you gotta pay your tap fees, and you go up there today, you can see where 806, where they put the home in next to us, you know, they had to cut the street and bore the sidewalk and all.
nothing better than building a nice brand new road and then getting to cut it up a year later. Nothing better.
Right, yeah, it's, to me, it's a sad way, and my point at that meeting, I was turned down, and that's okay. But my point was, it's just as much available if the stubs are right there at the lot and you know where they're at, as it is in the middle of the street. It just saves the street from being cut up, it saves the town from future maintenance in repairing the streets. So I think that's,
One more question, because I come from back east and I've been seeing some developments. When you do the roads, are they gonna be finished before the homes, or for the most part, before the homes are gonna be built? Or you're gonna leave them half finished with sewer lines butted up, not finished pavement?
No, it will be a finished road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a small town, and there was a big development for about 5 years, and they went with small trucks to plow because all the sewer lines were still up about 2 inches, so they finished the hose up.
Yeah, no, it'll be, yeah.
so, and there again, me personally, so the streets would be wider, I'd like to see just curved, because I know the extra cost of the sidewalk is just extra cost that's passed on to the customer.
I mean, to where I live on 606, and if you run a sidewalk on my side, it really narrows, you're gonna have to go into my driveway. But you can see it if you go up there.
Yeah, that you'd have to cut your driveway and,
Yeah. Take my aspen tree out.
right, yeah, it's,
It's
that's why I was saying, it's the same thing on wagon wheel court, I mean,
You know,
so.
that's
But those are things that I had thought of, and then, you know, if you were to go ahead and get your streets and everything in place, but do it in stages, and then possibly be able to, if there was interest in doing some duplexes, so it made it more affordable for somebody to come in and, you know,
Well, my only, and I
like
believe,
a first-time home buyer or something.
and I totally understand that, and this is one of the issues that I've incurred over at different areas is the way the town's code is, as this being a resident or
Residential.
residential one. It
Residential
does
one.
not allow for duplexes. And you have to, it also gives you kind of minimum lot sizes, which will say there, but there's also maximum you have to put in there. So this is, I mean, I ran the same thing in DeFruta, where the zone or the zoning code that they wanted on their master plan didn't matter. They wanted larger lots, but that's not what it's zoned for.
Right.
And so there's that component of it. And so when we come with this sketch plan, I mean, we met all the requirements for the town statutes at this time. And so there would have to be basically amendments made
Yeah, we'd
to
have,
that, to do, you know, for that to be an option. And I mean, I guess as the developer would need to evaluate to see if that's
feasible and.
feasible. Yeah, so
if
I mean,
it
And
was
I
make-
do want to say to you residents that he's making his lots 8,000 to 17,000, and our code only requires 6,250. So he could compact a lot more.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
I looked into it. Yeah, the lots are a lot bigger.
Yeah,
And I was concerned about the lot that you're leaving open, and that's why I came, and you are leaving it open. And that's what the water goes through. Yeah, irrigation. Ponds.
Oh,
for the
where the-
storm, yeah,
yeah,
would be all the-
that would be the stormwater, and then it would head.
Looking at, you know, being on my.
Yeah, it would head down behind the fence, you know, at that end of the park, and there's a storm drain on Spring Street there.
the storm actually on what we're proposing is it goes to that pond, the outlet, then actually will go in Clancy
Oh, okay,
and tie into that storm drain going that way.
okay,
Is the sewer line goes down the west side of the parking lot to the park and behind those houses.
right,
So, and I don't know that there's a box that far east on Spring Street, but we'll be tying in to the existing storm that's already on, is what the plans are showing currently.
okay.
Do we have the option to waive the requirement for sidewalks to have more street room?
Yeah.
Do you want sidewalks or do you care, Andy?
Well, I think Wilson was just about to.
I was just gonna say, like I said earlier, the town code just requires that if sidewalks are gonna be constructed, they have to be constructed at the developer's expense. So if Andy is willing to modify his design in that way, as part of either the sketch plat approval or before we go to final plat, then that's certainly something we can consider here.
It's something we could leave at your discretion, maybe. Because I mean, I'm all for saving the consumers money.
Well, and I think just to kind of drill back on Andy, something Andy said, as a reminder, and I know there may have been some confusion around this. It's just here for approval of the sketch plan tonight. So the issue of sidewalks, I guess that can be dealt with either later on down the road when the subdivision improvements agreement is negotiated, or on final plat approval. That does not need to be like conclusively resolved at tonight's meeting. And if Andy is willing to look at kind of revising the design to get rid of the sidewalks, then that's something we can work through between sketch plan and final plat approval.
I'd love just to be your choice, Andy.
And then the same thing, if they chose to do, if somebody wanted to do a duplex through this process, the town could make a resolution
So,
or update resolution, so that could be done in, say, a certain portion of the subdivision, or
so that would have to be a rezoning. So either the options there would be either to, Andy could go through the process to rezone the entire, what is currently now one parcel, what will be the 42 parcels, or if, for example, I know he had talked about the possibility of doing some spec homes on some of the custom homes on some of the larger lots. If there was one person who was dead set on doing a duplex and they bought one of those lots, they could also apply to have that specific parcel rezoned. But the town can't just pass a resolution allowing it. It would have to go through the process of amending the zoning code, which again is kind of outside of, we're just looking at final plat, so many different steps here, sketch plan approval tonight. So if zoning changes are something that is considered down the line, that would be a kind of an issue for another time.
well, it'd almost be like a variance, like when where Elise Valdez lived, the 13 acres next to us, it was zoned residential, but then they came before the board and asked that it be changed to, because it allows if there's anything over 2 acres, that they could go agricultural, but it had to be, if there was any neighbors, you know, on our street that said, hey, no, we don't want your geese coming over into our backyard and messing everything up or whatever. So years ago, we went ahead and neighborly, you know, the neighbors came in and there were no opposals to it, so.
Yeah, so there's a separate process for that kind of stuff under the code that would be dealt with separate from this approval if someone
Yeah.
seeks to rezone one of the properties, but that's not what's being discussed on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, that could be handled down the road, but something to be considered. Okay.
It's also something that would have to be in the HOA rules and regulations that they allow. And that's also something to take into consideration.
Just. for-
Yeah, I know some HOAs, I mean, they pick out the type of tile you have for your room, color of your house.
Whatever they decide, they want to put in the rules and regulations.
Respectfully, and in the interest of time, I do think that we should focus on the approval of the subdivision sketch plan. And subdivision plat that is before the board tonight for decision. And some of these things, I think we could talk about all aspects of this development.
Yeah,
And I think we'll be here till never leaving.
I move that we approve.
Are we done with the public?
There's
comment?
still
That's the
discussion
point of
on
a public meeting.
Sorry.
That's the point of a public meeting.
Well, thank you for your input. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
are there any other public
No, I
comments
think,
or?
my neighbor and you brought up everything I was gonna turn out. I just wanted to make sure, the road was gonna be put in, not left half done and stuff. Otherwise, it's a large development, we are going with larger pieces of property than small pieces. And I realize it's one way in, one way out, it's a lot of cars.
So it's a lot of.
A lot of cars, so,
Yeah, there was 2 ways in.
yeah, me too.
For 42 houses.
With that said, when Terrell spotted that in the seventies, it then had this number of lots and only used plans.
Oh,
So it's been that way for 50 years.
Yep.
Just historically,
yeah. That's just it.
absolutely.
I got little grandkids and they play out in the yard and stuff. I know what happens when you get a lot of people, a lot of cars. They go by real fast.
For fire purposes, I mean. if you
Fire
want-
trucks will be
if you
going
want to have this out,
Yeah,
it's, I know in a lot of places they.
It's not-
There's some exit route.
yeah. And when they get there, they have to be able to turn around really easily.
Right.
And then head back the other way.
But where else would it come out at?
I mean, that's the only access to that rock creek.
Right.
So,
So that's really not.
that, yeah, and that's part of. Road C, no,
Yeah.
the one going to the south,
That's
that's part of that other reason there that we were considering is for fire trucks and emergency vehicles that can pull up there and turn around if need be, like there's, they don't have to go all the way down to the cul-de-sac if they miss the road or
Oh,
plan C.
Yeah, that's next to my property, that little turnaround you're talking about.
No, when it heads straight south, the dead end to the neighboring property.
Oh, the future development.
Yeah,
Oh, that dead end. road.
Yeah. and so that's kind of how that's designed with there to. I mean,
Yeah,
to help emergency vehicles, we know, I mean, no different than us, we don't. Make every turn that we see the first time, so. Especially me, so.
So they could pull up into that and then just back
And back
right up
in,
to the cul-de-sac if they needed to, and
Yeah. So,
which is actually a safer.
and we've done, I mean, that's just kind of a common thing down in the valley. That we have to do is turn, or emergency vehicle turnarounds, so they're usually not paved. They're usually just a road base
Right.
section, but
Okay.
I don't know how we plow snow around here, so it'd just be a dead end plowed snow, so. Like it is currently, well, at least it melted now, so I can get in it.
Right.
That would be another concern. The snow buildup, where would they shovel it to? Because currently they shovel it up the street and it's packed right there, and then they also shovel it down to Spring Street and it stacks up there where the.
we just have to push it all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 35 years.
Well, in the past, depending on the snow amount, we have contracted Laird to,
Help
load, hopefully use his loader and dump truck and
Oh,
put it in the park, like Terrell Park,
yeah,
or take it over to the rodeo grounds and go there, so that.
that would be another thing if it had access to the park. Like if there's a little easement from the subdivision, it would like to the park.
Yeah, is there any way to put a sidewalk from your subdivision to the park for the children, so they don't have to go out?
Well,
No.
You could go right.
yeah,
next-
not
right
currently,
next-
there's no.
Okay.
There's a strip of land through there that's owned by someone else.
Oh, yeah.
But you could go right next to your pond and
Yeah, there is that one where the sewer line comes down right behind your guys' place.
Yeah, go right next to the pond and.
It just doesn't put them right in the park, put them on the parking lot. Yeah, maybe the left side of the parking lot, but I mean, there is that possibility, you know, to put something along the detention pond there.
Just,
Yeah, that would be an access to the park for the kids that,
maybe we could
yeah.
trade sidewalks for that.
Just about, I don't know where they go. That's the
Uh-uh.
It
problem.
doesn't even have to be a sidewalk, it could be a dirt,
Like a dirt trail, yeah.
like, so they don't have to go out on the main road.
there again, they have those in Paradise Hills between houses, they have. You know,
But anytime you do a sidewalk, it has to be ADA compliant.
Or
So if you start something like that, it's always gonna have to be ADA compliant.
And our
They
code
can just
things,
use
we have
that.
to have it, shoveled by 9 AM or 8 AM or something, and nobody does it. It's just more-
So.
Beat down their own path.
okay. Yep. If there's no more public comments, we'll close the hearing and then. Make a motion.
I motion that we approve attachment C for the subdivision sketch plan.
And I'll second that.
I personally would like to see sidewalks. I think that's one of the problems in a lot. Most of the streets around here have sidewalks at least on one side, which is great. A lot of them have sidewalks on both sides, and I think for safety, we should include the sidewalks. I would also like to see, a condition of approval added to this, that you have the 3 hydrants that you have indicated that you want to put in, as opposed to the 1 hydrant that's shown on the plan that we are seeing.
If you look at the other one, you can see they're just not called out.
Yeah.
On there, but yeah, and there will be, I mean, cause there's fire code that we have to. Up here too, so.
I'd also like to see a condition of approval, requiring, the wildlife compatible fencing. As proposed by DPW. I think that's, you know, we've got lots of wildlife here, we should, you know, try and make it safe for them and safe for the residents as well. I've thought about proposing a seaway for the sidewalks, but I can make that off. I think that's, you know, a little bit farther down the road, but those are the 2 things that I'd like to see.
But the fencing, is there a specific type of fencing? Can it be a VMS like for horses or something like what you're in up at the elk farm, or
Well, that would be,
what type of fencing would you be looking at doing on the perimeter of the subdivision?
something that's. The least maintenance. For the residents or the HOA, because that's ultimately where it goes. It will be turned over to, and then you incur costs.
Right.
For repairing on that, and so I mean. As I mentioned earlier, it all comes down to, I mean. You can make it affordable to buy it, but then the HOA costs are, you know. There's give and take for everything,
Yeah.
that's, I mean. It's all in how you look at it, and, you know, I mean, it's, you know, you like one thing, I like something else, you know. But that's where we start getting, you know, if we put everyone's.
We just happened to put up it's barbed wire because it's zoned agriculture, of course, but we happened to tie the BMS that keep horses hoofs, and over the years it's saved the wildlife because the deer actually have to hop over, then try and jump through.
Yeah.
And I've had to go out and untwist them from the barbed wire and whatnot, and DOW's had to come out and put a couple of them down, so. you know.
I would leave it at the builder's discretion, and I think that's probably what Wilson was about to say. According to our code, we have no requirements, so we can't really put this requirement on you at this time.
Yeah,
Or at least what I was going to say is with regard to those conditions of approval, since it's just a sketch plan tonight, my recommendation would be that those conditions could be recommendations for Andy to implement into the final plat, provided that those are modifications that he's willing to make to the design. And that's certainly something that as they work through between sketch plan and final plat approval, at the staff level, we can work through that stuff with the applicant, but it should really just be a recommendation for the to come back at final plat.
And I think that's fair, just to request you look into it. But ultimately at your discretion.
yeah,
The request with detailed specifications for fencing with wildlife in mind can be found on our website. It doesn't require it, it doesn't. And I don't think we should require something. I mean, it's not in our code.
okay. Any other further discussion?
On that fence, so let's say we put a wildlife fence in. And they just walk down the street, they'll get trapped in.
Right, right.
So sometimes the fence is not the best idea.
That happens on I-70, like around Rifle.
Oh,
They're on the wrong side of the fence
Yeah.
on I-70,
yeah,
kind of defeats all
Right.
of this.
yeah, those little pathways they have for them to
Yeah,
crawl over and,
it sounds like a good way for a deer to get caught in a subdivision
yeah.
and live there forever.
But, yeah. Well, they might be saying that. Are running around and.
Yeah, Get nervous. Mhm.
Yeah,
I actually have another question of our engineers. Is there any possibility to have another exit point to the east? Sorry, so instead of making two cul-de-sacs, actually make one of those a through street?
And then connect the cul-de-sac or?
No, just go off the property to the east.
Oh, go to Mitchell
Yeah,
or Green?
But it doesn't go.
probably.
Yeah, your property doesn't go all the way to this, does it?
To this.
No, it goes back, it backs up to Elisa Valdez's place, which on the first side of the fence, there is a 25-foot utility easement. So. I don't know,
Think you could, because you would, it looks like there's properties on the other side of that cul-de-sac, so. I mean, that would be the developer who wanted to somehow get the road through there. I don't see how else you would, like, what other connection point you would be able to.
looks, the park has a huge parking lot. Put another road right behind there. So you have two roads going up to the subdivision.
because there's actually 3 lots that the town owns on the,
Oh, they own the town is?
yes, as part of the parking lot that's there now.
Oh,
There's,
Isn't that on the west side, where my property is? It's
that's correct, right?
So that would make, well, I guess it would be able to have an exit, going down our street, entrance to,
Right.
it would take from the park and then, yeah.
I was just thinking if there was someplace, to put in another exit out of there. To help take some of it off. At this time, take some of it off of Clancy, but if not,
Well, if they did that, where Clancy was making you, around the back of my property, wow, so I know you own those 3 lots there, but. That would be up to the town. It wouldn't make much.
And it would be another access to the, I mean, that right there would be another access to the park for those people in the subdivision as well. Might have to change the entrance to the park, but at any rate,
That would not be a town decision at a later date.
yeah,
No, the only thing for that is, you know, if you've got a house, if you put a house to one of those lots, then there's a chance of putting in a, another street. Just throwing out an idea.
Yep, yep.
So those were the only comments that I had.
well, we have a motion and a second. Can we vote?
Roll call. All right, trustee Evans,
Yes,
Trustee Price,
yes.
and Mayor Wilcox,
Yes,
it's unanimous.
Okay, thank you all.
thank you for your time, Andy. Okay, item number 10. Attorney Wilson Scarberry update.
I didn't have anything planned for my update tonight. I will just answer one question or thing that came up a while back with regard to the legal fees on the subdivision. That can be dealt with at the stage that we're doing the subdivision improvements agreement. But I have been separately keeping track of time that I spend on this issue, and that's just all. I just want to let you know that I have been tracking that separately. So nothing else for me. So yeah, on to the next.
Okay. Next item is staff update.
I don't have a whole lot, just some reminders to check your email. The 3 mile plan, they're hoping to have feedback on that by the end of business, next week, Thursday, so that we can get that back to the folks that are finalizing that plan. And then, your availability for the retreat, board retreat in early April. I sent an email with a doodle poll out on that one. And then, the vacancy recruitment, we haven't received any applicants or applications to date. But that recruitment for the vacant board trustee position, our seat is open. And anyone who's interested in applying to be appointed to the board would want to submit their application by the 2nd end of business, April 2nd, which is a Wednesday, and that's a little over 2 weeks away. There's some flyers up there too, on the desk with information about it if you're interested in that. Well, that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, and trustee informational under items for future agenda.
I don't know, maybe.
We need to be discussing our 90-day moratorium that's in place. Fast. We also need to be hiring a new water attorney fast. And yeah, the Hoosier Your Ditch project, I saw that we were billed $12,000 to review the Hoosier Ditch project again. I would love to see the people on that line talk to. I'd love to see a meeting with them, because every time that the town tries to do something, they spend a ton of engineering money, and then they talk to all the people, and the people tell them why this hasn't worked in the past. And then the engineer says, "Oh, I wish we would have talked to you first." So it'd be nice to involve the people in that are part of that line.
I can give an update if that's helpful.
Okay,
So the town had a grant for 60% plans for Hoosier Ditch. It's been a while planning to do the water line down the ditch that was, let's say, next. the plan so that the town could realize their grant money. And it's been left there was to move their point of diversion closer to the water treatment plant. Create a diversion structure that would connect to the water treatment plant so the town could still use their water right. And then go from there, but the plans that we submitted to the town and that the town would submit to DOLA, and I'm sure Carla can speak more on that, would just be so that that grant money can be realized for the plans up until that point. If the town wants to keep going with it, great, there's 60% plan done. If they just want to let it sit, then that's up to you guys, but
If you move the diversion point down to the water plant, how is Gandhi Park gonna be watered?
And has the shrinkage of the ditch, if you move the diversion, has the shrinkage been calculated for leaving the ditch open? And
no, so as I remember, the piping it or leaving it open, lining it, anything like that was not acceptable. And so if watering Gandy Park, I believe, comes out of the town water right. Wilson, you might need to correct me on that. But the town has that water, the town has right to their water. Where the diversion point is now, then the plan would be to just move it and use that water for municipal into the water treatment plant.
And
But I don't
then-
think that would change anything that happens at Gandy Park. Because I believe that water comes out of that water tank
that's
that's
next,
already treated, that comes from the
so,
water.
so we're using treated water to irrigate Gandy Park?
I believe so, yeah. Cause I can't think of any water lines, irrigation lines.
We're not billing ourselves to irrigate that, so I assumed it was irrigation water that we use up there. Cause we bill ourselves like $1,800 a month, water to well,
Water.
but I haven't seen that bill in the other one.
Full transparency, I'm not sure where that water comes from or how it's built.
Mhm.
That's just the Hoosier part and the water right part in respect to the grant from DOLA.
But we could put in a line from that storage tank that's next to the treatment plant over to the park. And irrigate with that before it's treated. If. Quickly, I mean, right now it's plumbed around. It's bypassed, there's a tank, yeah, I don't know if it's 150 or 175,000 gallons, but. There could be a float that it would be put on there so that. Water could be pumped from that tank. And used for irrigation rather than treat it. And put that burden on our plant and then have a float that. Keeps that tank full so that. If we did need that tank. It could go through the treatment plant, and
The water in the tank is already treated.
I'm talking about the concrete tank that's not being used right now. It's not,
Oh, the
The
clear well,
yes, the clear well. I don't know if that's a possibility or,
think that would be too far up, like too far up the ditch. And then you could store water there. But then you would still have the same transportation issues of getting it from there
to
to
the
the
park,
park
right?
as you have currently. And we don't. There was no plan to change anything that's going on upstream. Any changes would be within the town's property at the water treatment plant.
So the point of diversion would be where?
At the water treatment plant.
So it would be real close to the clear water tank.
Yes. Currently the Hoosier ditch. Goes through the property of the water treatment plant.
Mhm.
So it would just be a matter of building a diversion structure. Something that can be self-cleaned that would take in the town's water right. And then piping it into the water treatment plant for use.
Mhm.
The only stipulation with that is, I don't know. And this is what we said in our basis of design report that was submitted with that 60%. I don't know if you can use that water since it's above ground and put it straight into the water treatment plant without causing issues or more maintenance into the water treatment plant. There would need to be, our suggestion is that there would need to be a water treatment study on that water coming out of Hoosier Ditch, because the water coming out of the springs currently the town uses is pretty clean. It's filtered, it goes underground and through the spring, so the water treatment plant doesn't have to do as much as opposed to pulling water out of Hoosier, you know, cattle and all kinds of things trump through there, and it's just dirtier water.
Right,
So that would be part of any additional. If the town decided to go past that 60% design, that would be suggested.
What do we use the water from the Hoosier Ditch for right now?
It's not being used.
Are we doing our due diligence paperwork on it, so we don't lose those water rights?
I think this was the goal of this project, was to realize those water rights so that you don't get taken away, but this is just where we are.
Do you know if they've been done in the past?
I don't know, I just assume not, but again, like, I could be wrong. That's the reason for this project, is to show that the town is using their water rights and that they should keep those water rights.
Yes. I agree.
So not to interrupt, but I believe the town pipeline dumps back into the Hoosier. And the lower landowners are actually using that water right now. So it's it's being used. With that said, and maybe it's been said before, the open air is 3 miles between the two. There's half a dozen diversion structures that would have to be modified. And then at the bottom end, that half a foot of water, the shrink would be terrible as well.
So, the town has a legal right to this water right. And I can't speak to what everybody else's water right is, but the town would have a legal right to that water right. And if they were not getting that water right, I believe you could go through the legal process to get that.
Which is one of the many reasons we need a water attorney, like yesterday.
Maybe
So
if you're
it's just
not
an-
if you're not using that water to make a call on your water right, may not be necessary because you have no reason to purpose of use on that water right. So
We can
you
show
don't
intent to use.
you typically don't call a water right unless you have a purpose for calling a water right.
We can show intent to use in the future.
So anyway,
Thank you.
that's where.
okay. So you would like to add
Yeah,
those to the agenda for next month,
yeah, been requesting that for years.
okay?
Review of our water rights and the due diligence. That hasn't happened.
Well, I think you're supposed to file those every year
I
too,
think so.
but have that been done?
Nobody knows.
You submit a use report.
It's been a request of mine to find out for a while.
What if you don't submit, you can have to lose that.
So it's submitted as the entire ditch, not the ditch on the submit code. Non-legal advice, you're covered, but it would be nice to clarify future, absolutely.
And it'd be nice, I mean, it's a big project, but in the future, it'd be nice to repair the pipeline that was collapsed by US West. They're the ones that collapsed it when they plowed in the fiber and the copper. They didn't know it at the time, but it's too late to go back on the phone company and tell them to repair it, so.
I
I guess,
always thought Hoosier Ditch was one of the biggest water sources for the town, but.
No,
not anymore.
no, when we first moved up here, the water that was being used from the Hoosier who's your dish for, or, you know, coming to our houses. And then when the pipeline was collapsed, there's still, you can run some water through it, just not as much as it's supposed to, and, so the subdivision next to Gandy Park, they used to be able to use that water to irrigate their yards and stuff, and there's not enough water for them to do that because of the, you know, people upstream ranching and farming and growing hay.
It still comes out of the top, so you can't even play with cowboy. Right? I say that tongue in cheek, of course.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so upcoming meetings, April 9th, 2025 is our regular meeting. And then, of course, the people are already voting and whatnot, but that'll be done on the 25th of this month, just for public information. If there's not anything else, we'll adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second it. We don't need to vote, but we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming and your comments, and
Thank you.
yes, ma'am. Bye.
First. Oh, yes.
I wanted you to read.
Oh, I covered on another time, but
Read that.
I just received on,
Speaking of-
I imagine it's a local. Hey, that's what I'm doing here. Like that's not. Nothing.